All right, good morning, everyone. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Has anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, we do have one public commenter. Ms. Brown, if you can come on up, introduce yourself and begin.
Hello, my name is Camille Brown. I'm assuming you guys are privy to everything as far as my case goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and speak on my behalf. I believe Amazon proved time and time again to be an unsafe, dishonest working environment with a very clear agenda to try and cover up the known culture of harassment and retaliation against me and others, to save their face by erasing camera footage so there would be no trace of my manager at the time, Julio Garcia, walking in on me as I was changing after telling me to go into a specific room, and even going as far as trying to intimidate/discourage me more and abusing their power when I tried to advocate for myself by inserting me into another HR case several months later that I clearly expressed had absolutely nothing to do with me. I undoubtedly knew I could no longer be a part of the Amazon company when they, without hesitation, suspended me for 1 day and then quickly decided to bring me back to work once they realized I was innocent, but failed to suspend Julio Garcia, my harasser, 2 weeks in, giving him enough time to jokingly brag to other associates about how Amazon was about to send him on another vacation soon, and put others against me once I was moved to another department, as this was not the first time he had committed this type of disgraceful act. He had also done this to many other women who were afraid to go through what I went through and chose to remain silent. That's who I'm standing up for today. Amazon had allowed him to remain so comfortable and confident with his harassment and intimidation tactics. Not only was it a huge slap in the face to me, but it was also a major realization that I was no longer safe and was being targeted, schemed upon, and definitely retaliated against. How could anyone remain in a company that paraded themselves with lies, scandals, and non-accountability, only to turn a blind eye when it was convenient and still feel safe? This wasn't a good enough reason. If this wasn't a good enough reason to resign from a company that was perfectly okay with protecting a repeated harasser, compromising my safety, my dignity, my mental health, my morals, my self-respect, and my truth, not once, but several times, then I don't know what it is. I'm also disgusted that I had to take it this far and fight and advocate for myself, and how many people have listened to my story since December 5th of 2023, and no one took the time to really care enough and understand what I've been saying. It shows me firsthand how much work society needs to repair what has been broken in employment spaces and justice systems. No one truly cares about the next human anymore. It's really so disheartening to know people rather cover up agendas and save corrupt reputations. Right is right and wrong is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. That's what we have for public comment this morning.
Thank you. All
Thank
right,
you.
yes.
I'd like to make a motion to have that case number 3807-340 resubmitted for future docket for further consideration.
Tell me the case number again.
It's going to be 3807-340.
All right. So we have a motion to do that. Can we do that here, or do we need to wait till it comes up on that agenda item, on the agenda?
I would suggest that once we bring up the dockets, go ahead, administratively, go ahead and do that again.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Perfect. All right, on agenda item 3, we have no cases to reconsider under agenda item 3. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right, on tax liability cases, agenda item 4, we have 2 cases on docket 7.
For the record, Hugh Daniel, Special Program Appeals. That is correct, Chairman Daniel. There are 2 tax liability cases on docket 7. The first case number is TD-24-039-0724. Commissioner Esparza,
Agree with the recommendation.
Commissioner Trevino,
Agree with staff's recommendation.
Chairman Daniel.
Agree with staff recommendation.
The second case number is TD 24-054 1124. Commissioner Esparza,
Agree with the recommendation.
Commissioner Trevino,
I agree with staff's recommendation.
and Chairman Daniel.
Agree with staff's recommendation.
Thank you all. That concludes the tax liability cases on this docket.
We have nothing on agenda item 5. On agenda item 6, we have no cases. Agenda item 7, wage claim cases. We have no wage claim cases, though, on docket 7 that have been pulled for additional discussion.
Yes, no pulled wage claim cases for docket 7, but you should have received the short form dissent list for docket 7.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 7.
I second the motion except for those cases which I am dissenting, as reflected on wage claim short form dissent list for docket 7.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I am dissenting as reflected in wage claim short form dissent list for docket 7.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. Let's move then to agenda item 8, consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 7. Please proceed when you're ready.
Case number 3086880, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision is not supportable due to misinformation and the conditions prevailing during the pandemic. The employer's Rule 16 request should be held timely. We should find that the employer had good cause to miss the first hearing. We should also find the employer's appeal timely. There's evidence in the record indicating that the employer's protest should be held timely. The employer's account should be protected from chargeback. Accordingly, we should hold the employer's Rule 16 reopening request timely, find that the employer had good cause to miss the first hearing, find the employer's appeal from the initial determination timely, and resubmit the case on the timeliness of protest and chargeback issues.
As I have voted in previous cases involving this employer and the same issues, the decision should be affirmed. The AT1 decision was mailed to the employer's address of record, and the employer offered no arguments as to why they filed a late petition to reopen. There is no good cause exceptions to the timeliness rules. Therefore, the petition to reopen should be dismissed as late. Affirm the AT, late petition to reopen, late employer appeal, late protest to the notice of maximum potential chargeback. Employer's account remains charged.
Timely petition to reopen, good cause, timely appeal, resubmit.
We will resubmit the case.
Case number 3625682, Commissioner Esparza.
We should modify the AT decision. First, I don't contest the good cause issue. Concerning job separation, available evidence shows that a client reported that the claimant had sexual relations with her on the employer's premises. The commission should take administrative notice of TDLR's report, which shows that the issue was investigated and the claimant was officially warned for engaging in sexual conduct on the premises of a massage establishment in violation of licensing regulations. Moreover, despite the claimant's assertions, otherwise, text messages purportedly between the claimant and the client revealed that the client was an active member at the time of the incident and the claimant was aware that he could be terminated for this conduct. Since the claimant engaged in unauthorized conduct at the workplace, his actions amounted to work-connected misconduct. As such, we should modify the AT decision. The employers did not establish good cause for missing the AT hearing, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The decision is correct. The employer testified that despite receiving the hearing notice for the AT1, they missed the hearing because they didn't have a fax number where they could fax additional documentation. This is not a good cause reason for missing the appeal hearing, especially since they could have requested the fax number from the appeal tribunal had they called in for the hearing. Regarding the work separation, the available evidence indicates that the employer discharged the claimant after it was reported that the claimant had an inappropriate relationship with an active client. However, the claimant denied this allegation, and the employer had no direct evidence supporting the allegation. Therefore, the employer failed to meet its burden of showing that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, employer did not establish good cause for AT1, no misconduct, chargeback.
No good cause, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Case number 3628-200, Commissioner Esparza.
We should modify the AT decision. First, I don't contest the good cause issue. Concerning the chargeback issue, the available evidence established that on his final day of work, the claimant left the employer's work site without permission. Although the claimant had continued available work, the claimant never reported back to the employer after the final incident. This effectively indicated to the employer that the claimant quit. Since the claimant quit when continued work was available, his separation was voluntary and without work-connected good cause. As such, we should modify the AT decision. The employer did not establish good cause for missing the AT hearing. No chargeback.
The AT decision is correct. I agree that the employer did not have good cause for failing to appear at the AT1 hearing, since the employer missed the hearing because they misread the hearing notice. This was a circumstance that was entirely within the employer's control, and therefore the employer has failed to establish that they established good cause for missing AT1. Regarding the chargeback issue, the employer provided insufficient evidence that the claimant quit their job without good cause connected with the work. Affirmed the AT, employer did not establish good cause for AT1. Charge the employer's account.
No good cause, chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3632-828, Commissioner Esparza.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant did not have good cause for a non-appearance. As to the job separation, the claimant was fired for using racially charged inflammatory language. Since the employer was the only party to appear for the hearing, its sworn testimony about the claimant's actions should be given greater weight. Accordingly, the claimant's usage of racially inflammatory language constituted work-connected misconduct. As such, we should therefore modify the AT decision. The claimant did not have good cause for a non-appearance, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate employer response.
The AT decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant did not establish good cause for failure to appear at the AT1. However, addressing the job separation, the employer discharged the claimant for using language that was allegedly inappropriate. The employer did not present any firsthand testimony about the alleged incident and still failed to provide its code of ethics policy regarding what type of language is appropriate for the employees to use. The claimant provided statements to the commission disclosing that inappropriate language was used while she was talking with two employees, but clarified her intent regarding the context of the language she used. The employees did not complain to the employer, and the complainant's job duties required her to discuss topics of sensitive nature in the ordinary course of her job. Since the claimant was never warned about discussing inappropriate topics in her work environment, the employer condoned the complainant's use of inappropriate language, and the employer discharged the claimant for reasons other than misconduct. Modify the AT. Claimant did not establish good cause for AT1. No misconduct. Chargeback. Void AR.
I concur with Commissioner Trevino.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3653-537, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant resigned from her position with proper notice after learning that her husband, who was serving on active duty in the Army, had received orders that extended his stationing in Corpus Christi for over another year. The claimant left the job to move to be with her husband at his assigned duty station. Since Section 207.045 D6 of the Act provides that an individual who left work to move from an area where they worked may not be disqualified if they move because their military spouse's change of station was longer than 120 days or a tour of duty longer than 1 year. The claimant in this case was properly qualified for benefits. Affirm the AT. No voluntary leaving under Section 207.045 D6. Bill reimbursing employer.
We should reverse the AT decision. The claimant testified that she quit because of 1, an incident with her child's school, 2, stress, 3, being a full-time student, and 4, no longer being able to manage 3 households. All these reasons are personal and none are connected with the work. Military status of the claimant's husband was not relevant in her decision to move. In fact, the husband did not receive a change of station during the 2 years that the claimant worked for the employer. He was already living in Corpus Christi when she took the job in a different city. Thus, because the claimant quit due to personal reasons, disqualification is appropriate. Asking to reverse the AT decision, voluntary leaving, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response. In the alternatives, despite the fact that the claimant had already been living away from her spouse for 2 years because she quit and moved to Corpus Christi where her husband lived, we could apply that the Spousal Leaving Provision Act and disqualify the claimant for only 6 weeks. Therefore, modify the AT decision, spousal relocation with 6 weeks disqualification, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
Quit to move with spouse, 6 weeks disqualification, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
Long form dissent, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3658012, Commissioner Trevino.
The A2 decision is incorrect. The claimant was discharged for failing to inform the employer about a potential conflict of interest during his hiring process. The claimant was unaware that he was required to disclose that he would be supervised by a relative, and he was informed directly by his future father-in-law that everything in the hiring process had been approved, and that the employer was informed of the personal relationship. Since the claimant did not actively intend to deceive or knowingly fail to disclose the personal relationship with his supervisor, the claimant's actions should not be considered misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
We should affirm the AT decision. The claimant failed to disclose that his father-in-law would be his direct supervisor. Because the claimant violated the employer's conflict of interest policy, he was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision of misconduct.
No misconduct.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3663787, Commissioner Trevino.
The AT decision is not supportable. The claimant's claim year ended on 3/20 of 21, and he filed his final payment request on 3/25 of 21. Then, 2.5 years later, on 9/28 of 23, the claimant was mailed a determination at issue in this case. This delay should be considered commission misinformation, and therefore, the claimant's appeal, which was filed only 6 days late, should be deemed timely and the case remanded to take merits testimony. Reverse the AT, timely claimant appeal, remand.
We should affirm the AT decision. TWC records indicate the claimant opened the determination at issue prior to the appeal deadline, but filed a light appeal because he did not realize that there was an appeal deadline. Because we do not have jurisdiction to consider underlying merits, we should affirm the AT decision, late claimant appeal, earnings adjustment, overpayment of $1,463.
Timely appeal, remand.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir.
Case number 3667056, Commissioner Esparza.
Can you read that number again for me?
3667057. Commissioner Esparza.
We should reverse the AT decision. The claimant was terminated for mismanaging company time. Although the employer warned its staff about unauthorized use of work hours, the claimant was seen multiple occasions using company time for personal reasons. Since the claimant was spoken to about misusing company time, her continued use of work hours for personal reasons constituted work-connected misconduct. As such, we should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response. In the alternative, the commission should rehear this case. In the employer's appeal to the commission, they explained that the AT was unable to review documentary evidence previously submitted by the employer. Since the employer's appeal provided crucial information relevant to the claimant's misuse of company time, we should hear this case to question the parties and to admit the employer's additional evidence regarding the job separation Rehear.
The AT decision is correct. The employer discharged the claimant alleging insufficient work quality. However, the employer did not present evidence that they had given the claimant any warning or notice that her performance was placing her job in jeopardy. Therefore, the employer did not meet its burden of showing that the claimant was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Rehear.
We will rehear the case.
Case number 3730-289, Commissioner Esparza.
We should affirm the AT decision. While on a leave of absence, the claimant failed to provide the employer with the required medical documentation to support her leave or her requested accommodation, despite multiple requests from the employer. Thus, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment. Affirm the AT decision, misconduct, no charge back. In the alternative, because the claimant stated that her leave of absence resulted from her medical condition, we could modify the AT decision under a medical separation analysis. Therefore, modify the AT decision, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
The decision is not supportable. The claimant, an on-call hospice nurse, was hired to work in the Huntsville area. When the employer then needed her to work in Liberty area due to staffing shortages, the claimant requested accommodations to meet her medical restrictions. As Liberty was over an 80-mile drive from Huntsville and over 100 miles from the claimant's home. The employer referred the claimant to a third-party administrator for any leave or accommodation issues. But the administrator then told the claimant that accommodation requests had to go through the employer. After the claimant made multiple good faith attempts to submit the correct medical documentation, the employer notified her that they were discharging her for not providing sufficient documentation to justify her continued leave or requested accommodations. Given these circumstances, the claimant's actions should not be considered misconduct connected with the work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, chargeback. And the alternative, since the claimant's separation was directly related to the medically verified condition, I could agree to applying the MVI provisions to this case. So I'm going to modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, MVI.
The case should be reheard to develop the record as to why the claimant failed to return from her leave of absence and as to how frequently the employer requested the claimant to work in Liberty prior to the accommodation request. Rehear.
We have a majority vote of no misconduct, no chargeback due to MVI.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. That was the last case pulled for additional discussion on docket 7, and you should have received the short form dissent list for docket 7.
Yeah, before we do that, Commissioner Trevino has a pending motion to resubmit case number 3807-340. Is there a second on that motion? I second that motion. Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll resubmit case number 3807-340.
Yes, sir. We will resubmit 3807-340.
I move we accept the remaining staff recommendations on UI cases for docket 7.
I second the motion except for those cases which I am dissenting as reflected on UI short form dissent list for docket 7.
I concur with the chairman's motion except for the cases on which I am dissenting as reflected in UI short form dissent list for docket 7.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted. This brings us to the end of agenda items 1 through 8. We'll take a short recess. Agenda item 9, additional funding for the teacher externship program.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Mr. Cerna. For the record, I'm Joel Mullins with Workforce Development. In fiscal year 2025, $1.4 million in WIOA statewide funds was made available for the Externships for Teachers program. Based on this available funding and the requested budgets, TWC can fully fund the 10 highest scoring eligible applications out of the 19 applications received. On February 4th, 2024, the Commission directed staff to present a proposal to fund additional qualifying applications. Based on the competitiveness of this year's applications and the evaluation scores, staff believe that all 19 applications received are of high quality. Therefore, today staff recommends an additional $970,169 in WIOA statewide funding be added to the externships program in fiscal year 25, allowing an additional nine applications to be fully funded for a total of 19 awards. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any comments or questions?
When's the next round of WIOA statewide dollars going? Is there a schedule, or is it like?
When would the next, we might need,
When would the next federal allocation be for money that comes up?
I believe it would be July 1st.
Summer?
Yes.
Ballpark?
For the record, Leslie Cruz, Workforce Development Division. It will be summertime, and we'll also be bringing back the statewide initiative reserve amounts and the budget build.
Okay.
Will start next month, and we're scheduled to bring that forward the third week of May.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you both.
Joel, what was the amount that you were asking for?
$970,169.
Joel's very precise.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
Chairman, I move that we approve the allocation of up to $970,169 in WIOA statewide funding to be added to the total funds available to the Externship for Teachers program for fiscal year 2025, as described in the discussion paper and recommended today by staff.
Is there a second?
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. The vote's unanimous and the motion carries. Thank you. Is there a legislative report today?
Uh-oh.
I suspected. He's hiding. He's been hiding behind Randy back there, so I couldn't see him because he has a new tie on. No, he's got that good. Randy could have some good flow, you know. It was covering it up. So
he does. Then again, I'm jealous of everyone's flowing locks.
You
Good
shouldn't
morning.
be jealous of anyone because you get to work at TWC. So.
Yes, sir. That is true. Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Cerna, for the record, Michael Brick, Governmental Relations. Busy week for GR this week. On the federal level, tomorrow GR will be monitoring 3 federal hearings, all taking place at 10 a.m. The U.S. Senate Budget Committee will be holding a hearing to mark up the fiscal year 2025 budget resolution. At the same time, the U.S. House Oversight and Government Reform Subcommittee on delivering government efficiency will also be holding a hearing on improper payments and fraud. And finally, the U.S. House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health and Human Services and Education will be holding a hearing on innovations from community colleges in the private sector. At the federal level on Thursday, GR will be monitoring the U.S. Senate Budget Committee's continuation of their markup of the fiscal year 2025 budget resolution. Regarding the Texas legislature, tomorrow, the Senate Finance Committee will hold its hearing on the General Appropriations Act for Article 7 agencies, which includes TWC. The hearing will begin at 11 a.m. or upon adjournment of the Senate, and Mr. Cerna and Chris Nelson will be testifying on behalf of TWC at the hearing. This concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
None here.
No questions.
Thank you, Mr. Brick.
Thank you.
Is there an executive director's report today?
No, sir. No report today.
Is there any other order of business come before the commission? I have unfinished business with Mr. Trolman, so if y'all have something, you should talk about it here.
I'll wait.
Well, so I applaud the Philadelphia Eagles for inventing a whole new defense during the 2 weeks they had off between their championship game, because Kansas City had not seen that before, apparently. Great game. The Eagles played strong. It was a good game. It was a good game to watch. That's a fairly young coach at Philadelphia, and I like when the young coaches find success like that. And I love that two key players in the game had their birthday on the same day during the game. And I thought that if you had switched over to the ESPN post game show, they had those two guys on there, and they brought him a birthday cake. And while Jalen declined the birthday cake, the two birthday boys ate all that cake plus some more. I think they were pretty hungry after that game. So
A few beers then after that. too.
I don't know what happened after that. I tuned out. I had to work the next day, but I think we're supposed to say wager. I think the agreement was that we would find some Texas barbecue. So we'll find a time that is mutually acceptable to both of us, and we will definitely have that meal. I'm looking forward to it. It was a good guy. I was for Kansas City for sure, but it's hard to deny a performance like that. That was a performance for the decade.
Hey, Chairman, so as we don't step on any walking quorum rules, I won't be joining you for that, but I too would commend the Eagles and their win in the Super Bowl there too. Would the chairman allow me to chip in on and let me put my money where my mouth is on that?
Well, we can do this. Absolutely, I'd let you chip in. I would like for you to be there. I think if Mr. Trobman fills out an affidavit that says we didn't discuss any business, I actually think that works, and I
We
think
go
he should
fishing
have
then.
to work for his lunch.
We can go fishing again too.
Yeah, so we'll figure out a way for you to be able to join us, because you did say that last week or the week before, whenever that was. So absolutely, Commissioner.
Yeah, I was just happy I was at a Philadelphia Eagle fan house watching the game. So
Already.
Yeah. One last item of business, Mr. Cerna, there was a grave and dastardly deed done to my workstation this morning. There was vandalism that took place. And in 5.5 years of being a workforce commissioner, I have not had the opportunity to do this. I declared this out of order. So I don't know whose handiwork this is, but it's actually exquisitely done. And this is a really good plate of barbecue. I hope this is what Mr. Trobman gets to eat on here. Is there any other business come before the commission?
none here.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Chairman, I move to adjourn.
I second.
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn, and we are adjourned.